Hey everybody, I'm Dennis Prager. Welcome to my home. Hey, is the fire on? Yeah. It's a fireside chat. This is literally a fireside chat. No matter how hot it is out, whatever time of year, because we keep the room very cold. Great to be with you. Thank you for being with me. By the way, I just want to say, to my great and pleasant surprise, these fireside chats are really catching on with hundreds of thousands of viewers. Is that correct, guys? Each week. I met a man. I hope I didn't. I hate telling a story twice. I hate it, so forgive me if I did. But I met a guy. I was returning to my hotel room. It was in Sacramento, like half a year ago. After a speech there, guy keeps staring at me, which is okay, because I'm somewhat used to it. But it was midnight. Anyway, it doesn't matter. And so he looks at me and he goes, "Are you Dennis Prager?" And that's the bulldog who's knocking over the microphone right now. Do you want to get a picture of Otto for everybody so that they'll know I didn't make that up? Otto, say hi. Now, Otto is lovable, but not a genius. Just for the record. Okay, here he goes again. Okay. This is very funny. My wife has just called him over, and now he is the happiest dude in Dude Land. Okay, this is all real, as you can see. We don't. By the way, is this live even? Is this live as well as recorded? Holy crow! All right, be that as it may. So the guy says, "Are you Dennis Prager?" I go, "Yeah," and he goes, "Oh man, I love your work." I said, "Oh really? You listen to my radio show?" He said, "I didn't know you had a radio show." Okay. You're familiar with Prager University? Nope, never heard of it. So how do you know me? I said, "Oh, I watch your fireside chats." So you never know. I mean, there's a guy, he's the only way he knows of me is through the fireside chat. So it was very sweet. Anyway, so I just came home literally hours ago. I flew in this morning. I was in Washington, D.C. 2 days ago, correct? Yeah, 2 days ago I was at the White House broadcasting my show from there. And last night, I want to tell you just a drop about last night. Last night I had dinner with 14 congressmen and women. All right, I'll just say congressmen, but a couple of them were women. And it lasted 3 hours. They don't have a lot of time. I was very honored by this. They really just wanted to get some thoughts from me, and I was not only honored, but I was aching to give them, my thoughts on the crisis in America, my belief that we really are having a nonviolent civil war in the country, and we spoke for quite a while. What did I do with my matches? Okay. Anyway, no, they're not here either. Anyway, not a big deal. What's the latest? Another dog is expressing himself at this time. Well, it was all arranged by Kathy McMorris Rogers. She is a congresswoman from Eastern Washington, the Spokane area. And I just want to say, this woman is such high quality. She just radiates competence, intelligence, stability. She is just extraordinary. She organized the whole thing. I want to thank her publicly. Those of you in Eastern Washington are lucky to have her as your member of Congress there. And I want to thank all the other 13 who also came last night. It was a wonderful trip, and I'm happy to be home. And I'm going back to Washington to speak to Young America's Foundation, and I'll be going for literally 1 day, and then coming back here. But it's all worth it because we have a beloved country that's in trouble. That's my belief. So I want to tell you about something else entirely. I'm going to put this down for a moment. So on August 16th, I will be engaging in my avocation of conducting symphony orchestras. I've been doing this for a few decades. I love music. This is the way I can make music as a conductor. It is a great joy for me to stand in front of great musicians and conduct a symphony. I started reading symphonic scores in high school. I did that instead of homework, and it worked out well. So I was asked, latest, I've conducted quite a number of local orchestras in Southern California. I do this to help them. I don't get a penny. I do this, I want to fundraise for these local orchestras that obviously need to be helped. They're nonprofit organizations. And I do it for a lot of reasons. That's one. Another one is to bring classical music to my listeners, as it were, my fans, if you will, who don't know about classical music. Because I believe that half of the country that doesn't like classical music would love it if exposed to it properly. So I conduct a piece, then I teach the piece with the orchestra. I show little parts of it, what the composer did, and it's fascinating. Just listen to the cellos, just listen to the oboes, and it's so fascinating then to hear it all come together, and you realize what a genius these great composers were. So I was invited by the Santa Monica Symphony Orchestra, a wonderful orchestra, by its terrific conductor, who was also a member of the Los Angeles Philharmonic, one of the greatest orchestras in the world. And he invited me. Guido Lamel is his name. And Maestro Lamel invited me to conduct his orchestra. I said yes. The board voted on it. And then, as it became known, this is going to happen August 16th. And I would love anyone who can come to come, because you'll have one of the most wonderful evenings of your life. I don't do this often. It's happening at the most prestigious concert hall, probably outside of Carnegie Hall, the Walt Disney Concert Hall, the Walt Disney Concert Hall in Los Angeles. It's a big honor. And it's August 16th. You can go on DennisPrager.com, and the part that says, "Where's Dennis?" and then you click on that, and it'll tell you about how to get tickets for the concert. Well, a few weeks ago, I learned that a petition was being circulated for the Santa Monica Symphony Orchestra to disinvite me because I'm a right-wing hating bigot, which is exactly what the left does on campuses. Anyone who's conservative is called a hateful bigot. They never back this up, because I am about as least a hateful human being as I have met in my life. A bigot. I don't have a bigoted bone in my body. It's evil bigotry, and B, it's stupid. And I'm neither evil nor stupid. But I am conservative in their eyes, and therefore I should be disinvited, including the former mayor of Santa Monica, who is now a councilman. He is going crazy that Dennis Prager would conduct the Santa Monica Symphony Orchestra. You should only be allowed to play an instrument or conduct that orchestra if you're on the far left. It's just very, very bad stuff. Now, I want you to realize how sick it is. It's bad enough when conservatives can't speak on campuses, but I'm not even speaking. A conservative is now not only forbidden to speak, lest people hear an idea they don't agree with, you can't even wave your baton. This is now considered forbidden, if the hand moving the baton belongs to a conservative. It's almost unbelievable. This guy's name is McEwen. He's a disgrace to America, because America's founded on openness, on tolerance. He's the bigot. He's the hater, not me. And he's not the only one. There are a few members of the orchestra who happen to be professors at the UCLA, needless to say. And so they're circulating a petition to the great credit of the board of directors of the Santa Monica Symphony Orchestra. They have all sided with the invitation, including those who didn't vote to bring me originally. There was a vote on the board. It was not unanimous, but it passed. But these, even the ones, the liberal, we see, because there's a big difference between liberal and left, they have nothing in common. This is something I stress every one of my radio shows. These liberal members of the board of directors have said this is not happening under our watch. We don't ban people from making music based on their views. That's not what we're about. But McEwen and other hate-filled people are trying to stop me. It's not working, but I will tell you this. If we fill up the Walt Disney Concert Hall, that will be the greatest rebuke to these people who are the intolerant ones. So I'm asking you, not only because you'll have the time of your life as I conduct this piece with this orchestra in this great hall, and then afterwards, the second half is their great conductor, Guido Lamel, conducting the most popular symphony ever written, Beethoven's Fifth Symphony. Da-da-da-da, da-da-da-da. Everybody knows at least the theme. So it's August 16th, and I really do hope that every one of you in Southern California will come, and if any of you are planning a trip to Southern California, to put that on your list. Again, it's on at DennisPrager.com, and it is where it says, "Where's Dennis?" So I look forward to seeing you August 16th, Wednesday night. Here's the score, by the way. Here's the first page of the score. And I look at it and I think, what a genius Haydn was. It's very powerful stuff. I love it. And I transmit that love to the players, and I transmit the love that I have to the audience. Classical music has been my drug of choice since I was in high school. And Haydn is the guy that I have loved every minute since high school. I have loved different composers the most at different times, but Haydn's been the whole time. Okay, so August 16th. And buying a ticket to that concert is A, a joy, and B, a statement that we don't ban people from making music based on their political views. You think, people could say the same thing to me. Gee, why would you raise funds for the orchestra of the most left-wing city in one of the most left-wing cities in the country? And my answer is because I want to help people make music. I don't care if every member of the orchestra is on the left. We're making music. If there's anything that could bring humanity together, it's music. Right? I think other things can. I think God can. I think good religion can. But music, certainly, that should be the first, or one of the most obvious choices. Okay. We're good? Open up for questions, guys? Oh, that's right. Craig is here. Or as you guys call him, Craig. I don't understand. Would you tell everybody your last name? Is it Strazzeri?
Strazzeri.
That is not an easy last name.
It's not hard.
That's a good point. All right. That ends that discussion.
Piece of cake.
Craig's with PragerU. What's your role?
I'm the Chief Marketing Officer.
By the way, let me say this. It hurts for me to say, but everybody loves him. No matter, I try to undermine that as much as I can, and it doesn't work. Everyone who works with him. Do you know that, Pete?
I did not know that until now. Thank you.
Well, it's because you're humble, which is really something.
I'm very confident in my ability to be humble.
I like that. That is a great answer. The truth is, we are lucky we found you.
Well, thank you, sir. It's an honor to work with PragerU.
Why don't you expound on that for a moment? Why is it an honor to work for PragerU? I'm not joking. Why do you? What does it do for you? I am curious.
Well, especially since I have kids. Once I had kids, life became even more real and more important to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I do not want my kids to be saturated in a world that is dominated with the left-wing ideology. And I think PragerU is doing good for the world. I know we're doing good for the world. We've seen it. We get hundreds of emails every day. People call your show from all over the world and tell them that PragerU videos have changed their mind, have influenced their opinion, and we're actually introducing ideas to young people who have never heard a conservative idea.
Right.
You can go from an infant to college and never have been exposed to a conservative idea, and we're changing that. We're reaching millions of people online, and I think that's a good thing for the world. So
now you're here specifically because this week is what you guys have called the banniversary.
Correct.
The anniversary of banning, or really putting on the restricted list. Tell everybody about that.
Yeah, so it was 1 year ago this week that PragerU staff members...
Yeah, look into the camera.
Okay,
Tell everybody.
I don't know where to look.
No, that's fine. Tell everybody there.
So it was 1 year ago this week that PragerU discovered that over 20 PragerU videos were restricted by YouTube. And for the purpose of clarity, restricted mode is a feature on YouTube that you can set on your computer to prohibit, in YouTube's own words, violent or sexual or mature content from children seeing them. As you know from our videos, we are neither violent, sexual, or mature. Thank God, for the most part.
We don't know. We're mature.
Yeah, I guess we're mature.
No, we are mature,
in one way.
yeah.
That's true. So 1 year ago, we discovered this issue. We contacted YouTube, and we've contacted them many times throughout the last year. So we're marking this week as the 1 year anniversary, calling it the banniversary, and now 28 of our videos are restricted.
Wow.
It's over 10% of our entire library has been restricted.
Now explain what restricted means.
So it basically, if you have restricted mode on, which YouTube allows this filter to be turned on, so parents use it for their kids, so that if they don't want their kids seeing content that's objectionable, which is violence or pornography typically, they won't see it. But the thing is that universities, schools, and places of employment in their libraries, they all have restricted mode on. And this is where young people are. So a high school or college student could go into their school's library today, go on the library computer, go to YouTube, and search for PragerU videos, and 28 of them won't even show up. And what's fascinating is you can, under restricted mode, search for the case for marijuana, for example. There are a lot of videos that will show up on the case for marijuana.
This kids can watch.
Even with the restricted filters on, you can watch that. However, the PragerU video on the case for e-cigarettes is restricted. So, I think ultimately...
E-cigarettes, by the way, are just vaping machines. It's water vapor with nicotine and flavor. But that's right, which does nothing compared to marijuana. But even more dramatic, right? I mean, our history of the Korean War is banned.
Exactly. And on that specific one, I spoke to a YouTube representative, and I said, why is our educational video on why America fought in the Korean War banned? And they said, well, YouTube and Google promote a family-safe environment, and war is not family or safe.
But they're lying to you. There's nothing on the Second World War. There's nothing on the Vietnam War.
Well, better than that. If you type in Korean War on restricted mode, there's a video from Crash Course, who's a site who also has animated short videos, who is more left-leaning on the Korean War that's not restricted. So it's a blatant hypocrisy. I mean, there is no doubt in my mind.
We're now up to 28. Of course, it's completely because we're not on the left.
That's the only reason. The
only reason. There's no sexual or violent content in any single one of them. It's nothing. What is the 20? What's the most recent? The last I heard it was 25. What's the most recent? Do you know?
The most recent.
Was it the history of the Democratic Party?
That one is not restricted.
Really?
Surprisingly.
Oh, okay.
I think Gloria Alvarez is one of the most recent. There's probably some more recent, but that was Immigrants Don't Vote for What You Fled. Talking about how...
no kidding.
Yeah. And so when they know that, YouTube knows our demographic is the young audience. They could see our numbers. They know that we're reaching young people. And they couldn't just remove our videos entirely from YouTube because that would be bad for them. But they know by restricting them, they're limiting our ability to reach young people.
But I still find it hard to believe that there is somebody at YouTube headquarters monitoring every video that goes up. So there must be a lot of people who check off, who are out there making sure that nothing non-left gets a big audience.
That's one theory. And then the answer they give you, besides community flagging, is also we have an algorithm. And the algorithm is supposed to detect, keywords, words in the title, or words in the content in the video.
Okay, but that's absurd. The algorithm is not meant by the Korean War or these others. Has Carol Swain been put on the restricted?
She's not been restricted.
Not yet.
Not yet, exactly.
Okay, we shouldn't even mention
That's the unfortunate truth.
That's right. That's exactly right.
YouTube had invited me to come to the offices in New York a few weeks ago, and they invited all conservative organizations. So our friend Steve Crowder was there, the Daily Wire, Newsmax. So all these conservative organizations were invited because YouTube was trying to appeal to conservatives. And they said, since you have such a large channel, we want to help you with any specific issues that you guys may have. So I said, well, we do have an issue. You guys are restricting 28 of our videos. Why are you restricting our videos? And they don't have a rational response. Even the employees at YouTube and Google, they have no rational response.
But they won't do anything.
They won't do anything.
Okay.
I don't expect them to.
Well, one other thing. We had the Wall Street Journal had 3 major editorials on Prager University.
This is correct.
And even that didn't help.
It didn't.
I was sure that would. I mean, that's the biggest, one of the 2 biggest papers in the country.
And they requested comment from YouTube.
They requested comments from YouTube, and nothing happened.
No comment.
Well, we'll just keep fighting.
Yeah, the most important thing that people can do to help is go to PragerU.com and sign our petition. It's amazing. We almost have 250,000 signatures of people saying,
Is that right?
Yep, 240,000. We're 10,000 away. We'd love to get to 250,000 signatures.
Yeah.
Not that it will help, but it's a strong show of support. There's a lot of people out there, 250,000 already, who have said, YouTube should not be doing this.
And the link is in the post.
The link is in the post.
All right, Craig. Thanks a million for everything you do.
Thanks for having me.
By the way, tomorrow, 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific, I will be on the New York Times Facebook page with a live dialogue with their columnist Bret Stephens. So that should be interesting. New York Times asked me to let you know. We're happy to tell you about New York Times events. I'm not sure they're happy to tell you about our events. But be that as it may, it's happening. Okay, time for your stuff. Ethan, by the way, what would be fun if you folks could tell us your age and where you're from. You agree? Because then people have an idea of who's asking the question. For all I know, Ethan is somebody's pet. We don't know.
Be a tortoise.
Tortoise, yeah. Dennis, if you're so distrustful of the government, why do you oppose efforts to abolish capital punishment? Well, first of all, I'm distrustful of government, of anything that the more power it has, the more distrustful I am. You're entirely right. But this is not an issue of trusting the government. This is an issue of trusting a jury and trusting DNA. It has nothing to do with trusting the government. So it's just not related. You might as well ask, if I don't trust the government, why do I trust them to make war? War kills a lot more people than capital punishment does. I'm not an anarchist. I don't believe that we should have no government. I just believe that the American vision of limited government, the only country in the history of the world to this day ever founded on the premise of limited government, that is one of its keystone principles, should be honored. I don't trust people with a lot of power. And you say, well, the power to execute is the ultimate power. You're right, but it's granted to them by the citizenry under very, 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 very limited circumstances. With DNA now, it becomes virtually impossible to have an error, to make an error. And I've put out a video on capital punishment. I've written an immense amount. I'm sure you could find it on the internet. I always use the example. It's painful to recount, actually. Just a few years ago in was it Stamford, Connecticut? Was that the city in Connecticut? Cheshire, Connecticut? 2 monsters, young men, 2 men, entered a home, and they beat the father with a bat senseless, raped the wife, raped one of the daughters, and sexually abused the other one, who was like 11 or 12 years of age. Then tied them to a bed, doused them with gasoline, and set the house on fire. The doctor lost his entire family. He's a beloved member of the community, and he's angry that they're living. That is, the murderers. He doesn't understand why it's just. And I don't know if he was pro or anti-capital punishment prior to this. But I cite him actually in the video on capital punishment. Okay. Lisa. Hi, Lisa. Dennis, I know you're not a big TV watcher. That, Lisa, is an understatement. But are there any shows you've watched in recent years that you enjoyed? No, not because there aren't enjoyable shows. I know there are. I realized in high school that it's very easy to get addicted to television. And I just decided that I thought there were better things I could do with my time, including learning how to read scores. I taught myself how to conduct. But I've never been a big fan of TV. But I totally understand that there's a lot of very quality stuff there. And if I had unlimited time, if I didn't need sleep, for example, I'd probably watch more TV. So I don't hold it against anybody who does. You know, I play hearts every day. It's not exactly a great moral development in my life. What are your thoughts on the Cal Exit movement? This is from Lloyd. I assume that's the movement for California to secede from the Union. I support it. I live in California. It would hurt me, but I do support it for the sake of the country. I would like California, with all its wealth, to be run and governed entirely by left-wingers who are not all that different from Maduro in Venezuela. And let people see what happens when the left takes over an American state completely. I should have turned off my phone prior to this, but it is live. Okay. And I therefore support it. I think that it would be a very powerful lesson. This state that I live in is so in the red. It is hard to it can't be overstated. The hundreds of billions of dollars. Is that correct in pensions? Sue, is that accurate? Hundreds of billions in pensions owed in California?
Like 200 billion, 200 billion.
Yeah, okay. And it just keeps rising. The truly draconian, moronic, faith-based, because it's become a religion, the environmentalist movement against cars and all the other laws that are being passed to bring California back to the same use of oil, of carbon-based energy as in the 1970s. So yeah, I'm for it actually. I mean, it's academic. It's not going to happen. But believe it or not, if there were a referendum in California, I would vote for the state to secede. Then, when it in fact happened, I would move. But because I don't want to lose all of my very hard-earned money that has been put into the very home that you see me sitting in. Nathan from Woodbridge, Virginia asks, oh, now we know from where somebody is. Dennis, do you have relatives who are on the left? If so, do you guys get along? Well, I have, the vast majority of my relatives are left of center. I only have one pretty much hard left relative, and I love him, and he loves me. I want that to be in every family. But it's not hard. It's much harder for the ones on the left to love the ones on the right, I've found. By the way, I have evidence for this. This is not an opinion. New York Times had a front page piece right around, I think around Thanksgiving, Christmas time last year, that it was front page. You could check it, and it's worth reading. That a lot of families were not getting together for Christmas or Thanksgiving dinner as they had for so many years, because the Democrats in the family could not any longer dine with those who voted for Trump in the family. We don't have the other way around. See, this comes as a revelation to people on the left who tend to suffer from some degree of narcissism, not in every case, but in most. They don't understand. We disliked Barack Obama as much as they disliked Donald Trump. This is a complete revelation to them. They think only they get upset in elections. But we get just as upset. But we don't carry on like children, because there are more grown-ups on the right than on the left. Look at the campus and the concept of snowflake. People who melt if they meet an idea that they don't agree with. We don't melt when we meet ideas we don't agree with. Bradley from Livermore, California. I get a lot of calls from Livermore. Asks, Dennis, I've heard you say that the only big difference between liberals and conservatives is regarding the size of government, but isn't that a pretty fundamental difference? Yeah, it is a pretty fundamental difference. That's why we're not the same. I couldn't agree with you more. But liberals and conservatives agree on far more than liberals and leftists do. That's the point. Liberals, I think, make a mistake in believing that government should keep getting bigger. I absolutely. But on so many other issues, they love Western civilization. Read FDR, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, who speech after speech spoke about how we have to protect not just Western civilization. He used the term Christian civilization. Can you imagine a politician today in the West, anyone in the West saying, if someone in the West, if the Prime Minister of Poland said we have to protect Christian civilization, he would be declared a white supremacist, bigot, hater, anti-Semite, right? Franklin Delano Roosevelt, Mr. Liberal, President Liberal himself, spoke about that regularly. That's how much liberalism has morphed into leftism. And of course, the biggest example I always give is race. The liberal position is that you should be race blind. And massive belief in the melting pot of America and in integration. The leftist position is multiculturalism and separate graduations for black students. That's a racist notion. It's almost fascistic. It's certainly not liberal. So again, I want to repeat. Liberals and conservatives don't agree on the size of government, but they agree on almost everything else. See the PragerU video by Larry Elder. Just came out right a couple of weeks ago. It was JFK. Was John F. Kennedy a Republican or a Democrat? It'll blow your mind. Here he is, the most adored liberal of the post-World War II era. And you will see how almost in every position he has what is now characterized as a conservative position. Dennis, what are your thoughts on a two-party versus parliamentary system? Carol asks. Hi, Carol. What are my thoughts? If America had a parliamentary system, this country would be ruined, utterly ruined. Thank God we have a two-party system. You see, a parliamentary system is you get into parliament based on the percentage of vote you get in an election. So I want you to just think about the parties. We would have a Green Party in Congress. We would have an anarchist party in Congress. We would have a vegetarian party, probably, an animal rights party. We might even have a screwy far-right party. Maybe. But with a two-party system, everybody has to sort of compromise and blend into one of the two parties. It's a much healthier system. Let me tell you something. If Germany had had a two-party system, the Nazis never would have gotten into the Reichstag. The world would have been very different. Talking about 1933. Adam, hello Adam. Dennis, why do Israelis want to stay in Israel when they could leave constant war, move to America, and live in peace? Because Israelis love their country. It's like a lot of people. Well, not a lot of people. A lot of people in Western Europe that can't even say love their country anymore. Because there's nothing to love. They don't have a specific identity. But that's the reason they love their country and they want to stay there, and they're prepared to fight for it. It's a citizens' army in Israel. It's very impressive. Your question is a good one, and it shows that the Israelis who stay. I'm not condemning any Israeli who leaves. Some of them I'm very close to here in America, but I really do salute those who do stay. Talking about loss of identity, did you know that Justin Trudeau, the Prime Minister of Canada, announced a few weeks ago, I'll either paraphrase or get it exactly right, but something to the effect, there is no core identity to being a Canadian. And he said it with pride. That's even more than I think Angela Merkel would say about Germany. The Prime Minister of Sweden has come close, or at least members of the administration in Sweden. One of the ministers was asked, so what about Swedish values? And she said, what are Swedish values? Okay, that ended that. Just a couple of more questions. Isaac on Instagram asks, Dennis, what would you say to people who argue that a fetus is not a human being? I have a very simple argument. What then is it? Next. Dave on Instagram. Dennis, do you believe the European Union is a good or a bad thing? I think it's a bad thing. I don't like power. I like when power is divided. So I don't like it. I don't like substituting national identity for some gigantic identity. That's why I'm not a leftist. I think it's a good thing for there to be a Germany and a France and an Italy and a Spain and a Denmark and a Norway and a Sweden and a Poland and a Hungary and a Czech Republic, and I could probably name all the European countries, but it would take a while. So I think it's good. I like divided power, and I like when people treasure their own identity. I don't trust people who have no commitment to a specific people. I don't trust people who are only committed to their people, and I don't trust people who are not committed to their people. Final, Ryan on Instagram. How do I deal with the very liberal teachers who force their political beliefs on students? They're not very liberal, they're leftist. Very liberal teachers never did that. That's just something I need to say again. How do you deal with it? That's a great question. A woman called me a number of years ago on my radio show, and she said, what do I tell my child, as my daughter, I think, what do I tell my daughter, who, if she expresses her opinion on her paper and it's conservative, knows she will get a lower grade? So, of course, I said, look, you're asking me my advice, but obviously it's just my advice. I'm not telling you what to tell your own daughter. But this is my bigger thought. If your daughter learns at the age of 20, 21, 19, to compromise on her basic values to get ahead, if she's going to do that in college, when is she going to stop after college? So that's something to think about. So again, remind you, I'm conducting the Santa Monica Symphony Orchestra. It's a statement for tolerance and love of music to come to the concert, because there are people who are trying to have me disinvited. The board of the orchestra and the conductor are solidly behind me, but there are people, including a few members of the orchestra, have a petition up not to allow me to conduct. So if you come on August 16th to the Walt Disney Concert Hall, it's a statement of, I want to have a great time, and it's a statement of, I want to fight the bigots, the people who are closing down even music making, let alone speeches. That's at Where's Dennis at DennisPrager.com. So let's see, will I be on next week? I'm not sure. I think I have. Yeah, I know I have to be. I'm going to try to be on next week. Let's put it that way. I try not to miss these. Look, I just flew in from Washington, D.C. That's how committed I am to these things. So thanks a million for watching. Craig Strazzeri.
Yes.
You're terrific.
So are you.
Oh, that's sweet. See you next week, hopefully. I'm Dennis Prager. Thanks for visiting.